There are so many myths and errors that the personal self makes about what awakening is. But for now, let me say it's as easy or as simple, let's say it's as simple as the relaxation that we've just experienced, the relaxation of self. When the self, the mechanism of the personhood, relaxes. Actually, it's more than that. When the mechanism of self comes apart, is demolished, but it starts with the relaxation. In the relaxation, there is a glimpse, there is a possibility. When the mechanism of self, in other words, the mechanism of the need or desire or pull of controlling what is experienced, pushing away what we don't like, rejecting what is unwelcome, turning away from, shrinking back from, or attempting to overpower any aspect of our experience, our internal landscape, as it unfolds and unfolds and unfolds. The mechanisms of self that wants to control that, fix that, reject that, deny that, and so on and so on. That very mechanism is what prevents the deep relaxation that brings an end to the personhood as the controller of life, as the creator of life, and allows true nature that is untethered by the personhood to reveal itself. And this happens naturally in moments of deep relaxation, in moments of inner quietness, when that mechanism is not at the forefront in its agitated state. You could say this is the end of ego self. So there are glimpses. And perhaps over time, the momentum of that mechanism no longer drives your experience of life. And there is instead the open awareness, which is always here, but is overlooked and covered over, allows that open awareness to be free. And in that freedom, in that unencumberedness by the narratives of the self, we meet life from that place. And in that we have awoken out of the dream of the separate self. It is no longer the driving mechanism. The awakening, the glimpse of awakening, when that mechanism comes to a quietness and perhaps collapses completely, at least in that moment, or those few moments, is simple. The journey really begins after that. The journey begins in the embodiment of that, in the embodiment of open awareness, the embodiment of non-dual realization or non-dual recognition. The embodiment of awakeness, of awakened consciousness. What does that mean? It means that's where a deeper love affair is required. A love affair with what is. A love affair with the naked reality of what is being experienced. The direct felt sense without any compartmentalization of what should and shouldn't be happening, what should and shouldn't be experienced. No division. Simply a deep love affair with what is here. And a deep love affair with, if you like, it's a devotion, a devotion to awakened consciousness as it filters into your lived experience. Because even though the personhood dissolves, the mechanism that keeps the sense of separate me and the identity of me as this or that in place, even though that dissolves in a glimpse of awakening, in a moment of awakening, a short moment or a long moment, inevitably some semblance of self reforms itself. It has to, in order for you to operate in the human earthly realm. What usually happens is that self that reforms itself is more permeable, more transparent. In other words, the ego vessel is looser. Some, if not all, of the identities, self-identities, have dissolved. Some or all of the defensive structures defending against that which I don't want to feel, defending against that which makes me feel vulnerable, defending against that which triggers me. Some, if not all, of those defensive structures, the scaffolding of self, made up of the grievances that we hold about what happened in the past or what might happen in the future, and so on and so on, that dissolves, that collapses, but not all of it usually. There is still an ongoing purification that happens in the embodiment. Embodiment doesn't mean just the body. Embodiment means the full lived experience, which includes the body, but it's not just about the body and its heightened sensory capacities or its sensitivity. The body doesn't stop here, it extends outwards. It's the whole of the lived experience. That's what I mean by embodiment. As this embodiment happens, as awakened consciousness wants to filter in and not stay as a realization. Realization, a view, a glimpse is of the mind. I don't mean of the intellect, but it's of the mind. It then has to filter into the heart. And the heart is where the grievances are held, the defensive structures, the armoring. And this can only be purified in the interaction with the ordinary human life, the relationship we have with life. And some relationships will touch that armoring more than others. And so it should be, because all armoring must come to an end. Essentially, it's a bowing down of the personhood to the truth, the direct lived truth of awakened consciousness, which is nothing more and nothing less than the capacity to meet life as it is, to meet your internal experience as it is. It's an excruciating sensitivity to all that is felt. It's a kind of nakedness, but that nakedness, although it can bring a sense of vulnerability, the vulnerability is only a sign that some of the armoring is dissolving, crumbling. Underneath and beyond and inside that vulnerability is your invulnerability, the true light of consciousness, the true light of open awareness, the true light of the simplicity and purity of being, where there is nothing more to defend, there is nothing more to fight, there is nothing in your lived experience that is an enemy. It is essentially the end of fear. And the birth, the lived, the embodied birth of presence,